Statistics South Africa, the official unemployment rate has dropped by 0.9% to 24.7% in the third quarter of 2013. The quarterly labour force survey also showed that the number of unemployed people dropped to 6.8 million, the same number as the final quarter of 2008, shortly before the world economy slipped into recession. According to the latest employment data, more South Africans are at work today than ever before. However, Stats SA also acknowledged that the working age population had risen by 2.3 million, meaning that the actual percentage of the potential workforce dropped to 41.9%. But the official rate refers to the number of active job seekers, which their data shows has declined by 114,000. All right. I know I've given you a lot of figures, so let's unpack this. And here to join us in studio and analyse the data, we have Refiloe Nasiteng from Stats SA. Good to have you, Refiloe. Thank you very much for joining us. All right, so the figure is not that big, but I suppose we're moving in the right direction.
Yes, the trends are showing a positive change. We are seeing that we are where we were excited in the country, where we used to say 1 million jobs have been created by the end of 2008. And immediately after that, the external factors came into the country. We went into the recession. And since then, we have been seeing a going down up until the third quarter of 2010, where we had the levels at about 12.9 million. That's the lowest employment levels that we had. And since the third quarter of 2010, that's when we have started slowly seeing this increase. And one would say this number that we see today, that is 14 million, is the highest that we have seen since that fourth quarter of 2008.
All right, but let's put it in perspective, though, because if we have to look at the population in 2008 and the population in 2013, it's a different number.
Yes.
So we have to keep that in mind, which obviously you have done with these, with these figures that you released. How do you come to this conclusion?
Yeah, I think context matters. What we were talking about in 2008 was when we had the labor absorption rate of about 45%. So things were fine and okay for us. Today we are still talking 14 million in employment, but it's 14 million of 52 million today. That also gives you a lower level of absorption, that you have about 41% of absorption. So the rate of entry into employment is still slower than what we used to see when the economy was growing at a better pace.
Many are contesting these figures. They're saying that it can't be possible that we're seeing an increase when one looks around and you can see that people are struggling to find jobs and a lot of people are unemployed. What do you say about this? How do you defend these figures to those that are completely sort of saying that this is not right?
Unfortunately, I might not know what the smaller is compared to, but what we have are the trends that we have seen over time. And what we need to understand is that the population is not static. So the population dynamics need to be understood. And when we talk about these numbers, we need to understand the context in which we are talking. Today we are talking about 52 million people out there. Therefore, the pool is bigger. We're talking about 33 million people that are between the ages of 15 and 64. That pool is very big, and we are expecting more people to get into employment. Therefore, when you see 4.6 million people out there looking for work, it does mean, yes, there are more people looking for work, there are more people left behind, but we cannot run away from the fact that we are seeing more and more people getting into jobs. But maybe to put it into better context, the pace of getting into employment is not as good or as expected, because we are still leaving many other people behind. All right,
let's have a look and try and get an understanding as to where job creation is happening. If you're saying that we are getting more jobs, where, what provinces, and in what industries?
I guess when you look at the industries, what is interesting is that there are these two big industries. When you look at the industry that we call the community services, it's about 21% of all employment that we see in the country. Trade is also another 20% of employment. And then you have finances, which I think is lower at about 12%. But immediately you have already spoken about 52% of employment in those 3 industries. And one would say, luckily, these are the 3 industries where we have seen the jobs being created, where we have seen that we already see about 100,000 jobs being created in trade in this quarter, about 98,000 jobs being created in community services. So the challenge would be what types of jobs we are talking about. And one would clearly say most of these jobs are not your highest paying types of jobs. Most of your community-based types of companies are not your companies that would be contributing. They contribute in terms of numbers, but they might also be trying to cap the numbers of the unemployed, but not your highest paying types of jobs.
How do you define a job? What is your sort of, your study? What does it say? What is a full-time job? What is a job to you?
A job is work. It's doing something for pay, I think, in simplest terms. Even if you work for 1 hour and get paid 10 rand.
So that is
it's selling
in
your labor.
The job, okay.
No matter what the price of your labor is.
Yeah.
So we count you. But what needs to happen is that a better understanding of the context that when we count these jobs, you are sitting with a good number of jobs that are not your best paying jobs.
Oh, absolutely.
And the increases that we are seeing is trying to cap the levels of employment, but also creating the jobs that try to get people in there, and then we'll improve as we move on.
So a builder standing on the side of the street that perhaps is hired for 3 hours for every 2 weeks is considered an employed person.
Yes, yes.
All right. Now that puts a lot more perspective on these figures that have been released. And I suppose if you want to access them, where do we go? To your Stats SA website?
We go to our website, and then we also have what we call Rombi. For those who have the iPads, then we will have all the information already in tables and graphs analyzed for.
Oh, excellent. So that's an app, an application that you can download.
Yes.
What is it called?
Rombi, R-O-A-M-B-I.
R-O-A-M-B-I.
Yes.
Rombi. Okay. You can download that if you do have, I imagine, Android and
it's mainly on Apple.
On Apple. All right. Download it from the App Store. Thank you very much for being with us here on Morning Live. Refiloe Nasiteng is Stats SA's Deputy Director General.